Good morning and welcome to our live stream, everyone. Today we're going to explore the use of our HR system and how it can help you uncover hidden talent within your workforce. Part of that drive is because vacancies are still at 25% higher than pre-pandemic levels, meaning many businesses are suffering with skills gaps, struggling to get the right employees to fill those gaps. But with the right support, you might be surprised what your current workforce can do, how they can improve your current capabilities, and also identify entirely new skills. I'm James Kenyon. I'm one of the sales team from IRIS, and I'll be your host today. I'm joined by our HR expert, Lizzy and a HR product expert, Stuart. Morning, both.
Good morning.
Hi, James. Great to be here.
Excellent. So if you're kind of following online on LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever, just give us a little comment, hello, because it's good to know that we're actually coming through, we're working. We don't have any understanding whether this is working or whether I'm sat in my kitchen talking to a computer screen looking at just Lizzy and Stu. So give us a hello or a comment if you can. And where you're coming from, where you're watching from would be fantastic. Stu, Lizzy, kind of a good starting point for today would be to explain why, from your perspective, Lizzy, why it's important we understand the current and required skills within our businesses and kind of, understanding why it's important to know that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure everyone who's joining us on session today have felt the pain of the last few years of kind of hiring during COVID or a COVID hiring freeze, and then the great resignation that came after that, and then obviously the economic turbulence that we've seen since. So it's never been more important, I think, to really understand actually what skills you need within a business and also what skills you currently have. I've got a terrifying statistic in front of me that actually, in terms of reskilling existing staff rather than bringing in new talent, can save around £50,000 per employee. So in terms of agency fees and the time it takes to get somebody upskilled and in the business and all of that sort of good stuff. So it seems a pretty terrifying figure to me, but certainly one I know that people have had lots of experience of on the call today, of actually saying, if only we were tapping the resources that we have rather than actually having to bring them in new, train them up in our ways of working and putting all that investment into them before we are seeing real value out of them. So one of the really helpful things that we've been exploring here at IRIS, and that Stuart is going to show some of the fantastic ways that Cascade can also support with this, is tool called skill mapping. So basically, complicated word for something really simple, all about working out what skills do my people have in my business today. So what can they do? What experience and backgrounds do they have? What do they bring? And actually, what do we need? And do they align? Because as our businesses have changed significantly over the past few years, we're now working remotely. There's more pressure on our managers to make sure that they're managing effectively. We might have branched out into new and different ways of working than we would have done prior to the pandemic. Actually, do the skills we have within the business match the ones we actually need to be successful moving forward? And a really helpful place to start when you're thinking about what skills you have versus what you need, of course, is to go back to things like job descriptions. So when someone's brought into the business or you're looking to hire somebody new, of course, we have a useful list of skills there. But actually really talking understanding, if we were bringing in someone new or creating a new role from scratch, actually what would that person need to be able to do? And that can be a really helpful starting point for just starting to think about what different skills you might need within the business. And I know we've also got Stuart showing us a fantastic thing in a minute, but James, also just wanted to ask you, I know you speak to a lot of different HR people on a daily basis. So are there any other kind of things that other customers have shown that could be a really helpful piece to bring in here?
Yeah, I think businesses are always quite daunted about the size of the project and what they kind of understanding the skills that the team have, and they're always quite anxious about mapping that out and understanding how to have that in a nice consolidated way where they can use it and reference it. From my side, we engage with businesses that are as small as kind of 50, 60 employees up to 20 odd thousand and everything in between. And it's still quite frightening how many of the bigger sized businesses still have filing cabinets to store their employee records. So when you say to them, oh, actually, we've got something that could be really useful to help you identify skills within your business, they find it quite daunting initially and quite scary that you could do that. However, once you put the initial legwork in, get the information onto the system, get it up to speed, and start getting in the habit of using it fairly regularly, people really find it incredibly useful and reap the rewards long term. So I think I think businesses sometimes, if they invest a little bit initially, really get the positive wins in the longer term. And it's always getting that. It's the challenge with businesses is getting the financial directors on board to go, well, actually, let's spend that money up front, because it doesn't always, not necessarily tangible. So it's always really useful. But Stu's going to show us some neat bits in the system today, hopefully, and show what Skills Matcher can do for everybody. Stu?
Yeah, no problem at all. So if I just move everyone over to my screen on here. So with any data, obviously, you're only as good as the data that you're actually putting in. So with the Skills Matcher tool, that's all controlled within the posts that you have within the system. So within here, I've got my list of posts in the system. You can add as many as you like within here. But once I've gone into a particular post, I've got my main details of that particular post. And then I can also see some other details in here. So I can see who the subordinates are for a particular post, who needs to report to this person. I can also see the competencies. So this is the key one. So populating this data in terms of the requirements for that particular role. So we can attach specific subjects within this and also the levels that they're actually required to be at for these roles as well, and whether or not they're essential to that role. So if it's a mandatory requirement, so we can list those in there. It's really quick and easy to actually add additional posts in here. So you can have your categories set up within the system, and then you can add particular subjects and also what levels people are at. We can mark them as whether or not they're essential for that role and then add them in. So it's really quick and easy to actually do that on that side as well. So what that's feeding into is actually on the HR record itself under the skills and competency screen. So within here, you'll have a dedicated screen for all your skills and competencies that this particular individual's got. Now, they don't necessarily need to be linked to the post either. So you can ad hoc any particular skills that you've got. So as you can see here, this particular person is a guru at French. So you can literally list any of those skills in there, as well as the expiry dates. And that's the great thing about this. So being able to add those skills in with an expiry date, so you can be monitoring any kind of skills and behavior that you've got in the system. So once you've actually logged that, you can attach any documents or anything else, certificates associated with that particular qualification or skill. And in there, that will then start feeding into our skills and competencies dedicated screen and system that we've actually got in the system. And I'll cover that in more detail on the next points that you've got. How does that look?
Cheers, Stu. And that didn't seem to take you too long, to be fair.
No, it's really quick and really easy to actually get these set up. So you can add your new roles within a couple of minutes, and it's just there ready for you to go.
Fab. Beautiful. And it's clearly kind of really important stuff for businesses. In the current climate, it's vital, really, that businesses make the most of the people they have and save costs wherever possible. recruitment costs or whether it's training costs, getting people up to speed as an external hire and a candidate. But mapping skills can help with more logistical aspects as well. When speaking with kind of a customer recently, how can you use the skills mapping to support unforeseen absences, sicknesses, kind of unexpected leave, bereavements, that sort of thing? What are your sort of thoughts, Lizzy, how this can benefit and help people?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic tool, and often can sometimes be the hook that gets people to go, actually, I can really see how we would use this day to day. Because by having that catalogue of skills that you've got in there against each person, if the inevitable happens, you've got a key customer meeting and it's in French, and suddenly your French speaker goes off sick that day. Actually, an example is that you can then go, right, well, who else have I got in the business who speaks French? Let's go search them. We can reach out to them super quickly, and then they could step in and save the day with that customer meeting. So there's a whole range of kind of really cool examples of this that I'm sure Stuart's going to show us shortly. But, you can put in whatever skills are relevant for your business, really. So if you needed somebody with a forklift license, if you're moving things around a warehouse, someone proficient with Photoshop, someone who can present to a crowd, whatever it is, it's a really fantastic tool for filling in when there's an emergency. And I'm sure, thankfully, with days of COVID being pretty much behind us, hopefully those unexpected sickness absence from being pinged by the app are behind us. But we know coming into flu season, it's an ever-present danger. So, Stuart, I don't know if you want to just show a few different ways that we can do that and just how easy that is.
Absolutely. So this is one of my favorite parts of the actual skills matching tool, because it's the tool itself. So within here, under the reports and analysis, you've actually got a specific skills matching category. So what we can do in here, we can search for ad hoc skills such as the French or any other languages and things like that. But we can also look for those post skill requirements and specific employee skills as well within the system. So in here, if I need to look for a replacement administrator, I can look for the specific tasks that are required as part of that post, and then I can search for those. So I can look for the top 20 or the top 5 requirements for that particular role, and then I can list them within here. I can then see each employee that has got these particular skills, what their current roles are, and what kind of a match we are in terms of percentage. Have they got all the required skills that I've listed within my search engine in here? So the great thing is, obviously, any kind of skills that you've got, you're going to be able to list them all and just have them within here. We can also do it on an employee basis as well. So if we're doing it the other way around, where we actually want to look at a particular individual and we just want to see what skills they've actually got within their skills and competencies, we've got a quick and easy way of actually being able to access all of that detail. We can filter out any expired skills. So if it's a 12-month course that you need to refresh every year, then you can remove those from the list if they haven't refreshed them. So that way, you're going to get the best person for that particular replacement role at the time. Is that the sort of thing you're looking for, Lizzy?
That was wonderful. Thank you, Stuart.
It's interesting stuff, because it kind of shows you how broad a range of skills you can have that are in the skills matcher. We talked about people learning French or forklift truck drivers, but it sprung to me that you could also have like first aiders there. If kind of you end up, something ever happens to your team in the office and you didn't know who the first aider was, it's really quick way for the HR team to access it, or the management to understand actually this is who we can do. And it's great to see a nightmare situation can be overcome really quickly with the right tools in place. On a similar sort of vein, skills mapping can also help with succession planning, presumably.
Yeah, definitely. So again, not something that we always like to think about, that somebody might dare to leave the business and leave us high and dry. But of course, sometimes that does happen, and succession planning can be a useful way of trying to think about in advance, actually, who are the people who either might be ready to step up in an emergency or step up straight away, or actually who are the people who have some of the skills that we might need in that future role, and how can we develop them so that in 6 months or 12 months time, actually they would be ready to step up into that position. And we know that it's really important to employees to be able to see that progression and development opportunity. So really helpful, and as we've mentioned, also usually much quicker and cheaper and easier than hiring somebody in new, is actually to really unlock that talent from within. So really great way of being able to use Skills Matcher to say, actually, well, if we know what people needed in this particular role, what skills that person had, not only are we able to really look and go, okay, well, if somebody is to leave, they've just resigned, actually, what skills do we need to replace them? Actually, we can then go in and use Skills Matcher to be able to say, well, what people do we have that have some of these skills at the moment? Or actually with some training, who could be the perfect fit? So really fantastic way of kind of building on responding to that quick nightmare situation if somebody hasn't turned up today, versus actually really supporting with that long-term workforce planning as well. So Stuart, don't know if you want to show a little bit more about how Cascade can help with succession planning.
Yeah, absolutely. So within Cascade, you've obviously got a dedicated area for succession. So you've got this screen within the employee record that you'll be able to review. So under succession, I can see when my assessments have taken place and what my capability scoring are. So once I've actually put a record in here, I can put my capability scoring within the system, the date of the assessment, whenever that is, and then obviously what their target roles are and what the next actions are. So obviously the system's going to automate a lot of the process in terms of the follow-up to make sure that people and managers are getting the reminders and the prompts of any tasks that they're going to need to do as part of that goal in terms of the roles that they're actually going for. But once you've actually identified them as a talent and also potential flight risks within the system, then you're going to be able to filter that into any kind of matrix that you want. So what we can do from there is, just as a very basic example, I've got a 9-box report within my system that I can produce. And this will give me all my high scorers and who my future leaders are within the system. So within here, if I want to see who the future leaders are, I can click into that, and that'll give me the list of staff, in terms of their capabilities and what their performance ratings are at the moment. So we can identify who those people are for senior succession, but I can grade that on any kind of scale that I want. So I can also identify those people that are actually performing under potential at the moment, and that we can develop them and give them the support that they need on that side as well. So all of that data is available once we're actually completing these screens and entering that data in as we need to.
Fun. It's quite a neat bit of kit sat inside Cascade. It's part of the core HR as well. It's not kind of an additional module. There's a little bit of legwork for you to do as a HR team, but it's not something that's outside what you'd be comfortable doing, Lizzy. Is that fair to say? Is it kind of something that you and your teams in the past that you've worked with would be comfortable getting that information in the system and getting the quick wins out of it in the future?
Oh, absolutely. No, whenever Stuart brings up the 9-box grid, my heart sings a little bit, because if anybody's ever tried to do that manually in Excel, it is hideous. So having a report that you just feed the information in, click a button, it goes ping, it's beautiful, it's there, you can share it with your senior leadership team, you can click into it, it opens up the names and all the detail behind it. It is beautiful. So yeah, much easier than trying to work out how to do it manually in a spreadsheet, definitely.
Fab. Yeah, it definitely looks easy to deal with, and always having the right tools in place helps most definitely. On the flip side, presumably with the skills mapping side of things, it can then evolve into L&D and going, actually, we looked at what the skills and competencies are, and on the 9-box grid we went, well, these are our superstars and these are the ones lagging behind. it gives us a nice lead into L&D and kind of growing them skills, presumably, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's so helpful, really from an HR perspective to obviously know, if we have particular skills gaps or people aren't at the skill level that we'd be expecting them to be, or we can see that our first aiders are coming up to the expiry date of their certification, then it's a really helpful way for our L&D team to actually plan in what sort of training courses might we need to run over the next 12 months. But it's also a really suitable and useful tool for managers and employees when they're preparing for things like the annual appraisal process, for setting objectives, for thinking about progression for their teams, to actually be able to say, this is the skills that you have at the moment. If you're looking to get a promotion, these are the sort of skills that you'd need to get to this new particular role. And actually then how can I help you as a manager to develop that as well? So it's a really fantastic tool, really across everyone in the business, to be able to support those conversations, because all about unlocking the hidden talent that we've got in the workforce today. And part of that is ultimately helping people recognize the skills that they have and what they're interested in learning and what they're capable of. So also a really fantastic opportunity for that as well. So James, I don't know if you've had experience with customers who've used this really fantastically in this way.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of customers are surprised that it's part of the core functionality. I know I touched on it before, but they're really surprised that it's part of the core. They expect it to be an additional module. So it's, even when people are on a tight budget, you can get it within costs more often than not, and helping it to support you as a business and make the most of the team that you have is really crucial, to be fair. And it kind of helps get a better return on investment, which is key in a lot of the times, getting these systems either implemented or making sure they're used to the best of their potential. And I know that one of the big benefits with Cascade is you can use it in different countries. So you don't have to just use, it's not UK focused, so you can tailor the kind of skills matrix to each individual country that you operate in, which is always a nice plus for different businesses. Stu, have you got kind of another example you want to kind of run us through that's quite useful?
Yeah, absolutely. So the great thing is, obviously, all your appraisal functionality and basically everything else is available within Cascade as the core system. So you can schedule all your appraisals and your feedback within the system, but then you can also be monitoring their training and development within the system. So once an employee is actually identified that they want to progress to the next step in their career, then you're able to create plans within the system for their development. So in here, if a new employee is requested that they aspire to be a manager in the next year, then what we can do is we can set up a plan within the system. We can set a target date of when they need to complete the particular tasks that we're going to set them. And once you've got that, then you can add the plan items to that particular plan. So in here, I've got my plan, and I can add specific items to this, and that can be linked to either manual tasks that you need to set them within the system, or any particular competencies and courses required for that particular post. So if there's a specific post role that they want to undertake, like manager, then we can attach those skills within the system, and then we can have them listed within here. So I can search for the manager role, such as an assembly manager here. And if I select that particular role, then it will list all the specific skills and competencies that they need to do as part of that role. So we can set these targets and goals during the course of the year, and we can be marking whether or not they've achieved those particular milestones at any time. We can set automatic reminders in the system as well, just to give them a nudge and just keep them on track and make sure that they're actually achieving the goals that we're setting out during the course of the year. You can also have things like periodic reports, once a quarter or once a month, whichever you prefer, where it's just going to give you that update of where each of your staff members are on these kind of target lists that you've set within the system. This can also be fed from our training module as well. So we do have an additional training module that's available, and that would allow you to list further training courses and be able to actually book on those training courses within the system as well. So the great thing about the training manager is that you can set specific profiles as well. So it's not necessarily just linked to a specific post. You can have specific profiles such as health and safety, for instance, that'll be attached to an individual. So it'll be the additional skills and competencies that they need to do as part of that particular field that you've set them. So if you need them to be doing any kind of fire marshal or health and safety requirement, you can attach those on and just make sure that they're actually achieving those goals that you've set.
Fabulous. And presumably you can kind of manage them through appraisals as well to kind of make sure that people are on track to hit the milestones and do the work in as you're going along.
Absolutely, that's all built in within the system, so it's not an additional module, it's just there for you. You'll be able to design your appraisal screens to be exactly how you need them to be. That's the great thing. It's not something that's going to be a fixed screen within the system. You can mold and shape that to be exactly how you need it to be.
Fabulous. Fabulous. It's been a really useful and interesting session this morning. And thank you both for sharing your kind of insights on what you, well, from your perspective, Lizzy, what you've experienced. And Stu, thank you very much for showing us around the system. And thanks for everybody else for joining and connecting and reaching out to us. I'm just having a quick look. Have we got any questions or queries in the comments from, let's have a quick look. Oh yeah, we've got one about can the system work in different languages and different countries? I know we briefly touched on that before, Stu. It's quite user-friendly from that perspective, isn't it, configuring for different countries?
Yeah, absolutely. So the HR side is very much open. So we've got lots of clients that do operate globally. So you can set each individual country up as a completely separate entity, but you're still within that one Cascade environment. So you're still going to be able to report on all of the countries that you operate in, but everybody is going to get their own, you know, bespoke experience when they actually log in. So we can tailor those languages and the screens to be specific for each country.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for joining, everybody. It's bye from me.
Wonderful. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.